Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today I'm going to read one of my stories, and it's called Little Parisian Girl. When I was born, I literally had no hair at all. No peach fuzz, no wisp, no nothing. I was bald. My sisters were all graced with at least a modest covering of hair, but not me. As we grew older, their hair continued to grow into beautiful locks and curls, but my hair grew so slowly and was straight as a board. You may think I exaggerate, but I do not. Mama would dress us up to go shopping or to a garden club event or to anything requiring our little fancy dresses. Now, one would think that when a child of 3 or 4 was wearing a dress, chances were pretty good that you were looking at a little girl. But oh no, many a time people would look at me and say, "Why, Miss Coleman, what a pretty little boy you have." And I was wearing a dress. Finally, Mama started taping big bows to my head, and that did help a little bit. By the time I was 4, I did have a bowl haircut of sorts. While I'd never actually had my hair cut, it was very short and straight and resembled, I guess more than anything, you would just say what we call a bowl haircut. Anne and Penny had gotten their hair cut, and it was so curly and so pretty. I was absolutely green with envy. I was just miserable with my hair, or lack thereof. To make matters worse, the annual spring pilgrimage was coming up, and I was going to be performing in it. Martha Hutzel of Martha Hutzel School of Dance saw to it that all of the performers were well rehearsed and ready for showtime. All eyes would soon be on me and my poor excuse for hair. Oh, how I wanted to be beautiful like my sisters. Why did they have such pretty hair and I had next to none? It just wasn't fair. After pondering this for a while, I figured that the secret to gorgeous curly hair must be in the way it's cut. If I cut my hair, surely it would immediately grow back thick and curly. So 2 days before the pilgrimage, I took matters into my own hands. While I was in bed with Penny, fast asleep right next to me, I got under the covers and slipped all the way to the bottom of the bed. Then I started to cut my hair. I couldn't see anything, of course, but I felt sure that this would be the answer after I completed the cut. I drifted off to sleep so confident and really full of hope. The next morning, I jumped out of bed before anyone was up, and I ran into the bathroom to see my new curly hair. The screams which followed woke the whole house. I flew back to bed and crawled under the covers as far down as I could get, way down to the scene of the crime. Mom and Daddy heard all the commotion and came running. I refused to come out from under the covers. Mama was pulling, but so was I. I held on as tight as I could, sniffling and screaming. I just wanted to be pretty like the other girls. Finally, after much persuasion, which turned into threats, I slowly crawled out. All 10 eyes were focused on my head. To their credit, they managed to stifle their horror. That is to say, no sounds came out except for Mama, who uttered an audible gasp. Daddy immediately told everyone to go downstairs to breakfast. I sobbed for an hour while Mama tried to soothe me as she examined the destruction. It was bad. Later that day, Mama managed to get me an emergency appointment at Christine's beauty parlor. I bet a lot of you all remember that particular salon. After briefly exchanging pleasantries, Christina got to work and began assessing the damage inflicted on my head like an insurance agent examining a crashed car. As big crocodile tears started streaming down my face, Christine said in her sweet southern drawl, "Now, darling, you just wipe those tears. Miss Christine will fix you up better than ever." 2 hours later, we left, and I had a new perm with curly patches all over my head. I hated it, and the next day was the pilgrimage. The next morning, Mama had to leave to attend an all-day meeting, and so she asked Leola to bathe us at 4 o'clock and get us into our costumes at 5 for the pilgrimage that night. When 4 o'clock came, I darted into the backyard with Leola chasing me back to the house, telling me to get ready. She couldn't catch me, and with the clock ticking, she finally decided to telephone Daddy. "Judge, I can't get Baba out from under the bed, and she has got to get ready." Daddy told her not to worry and that he was leaving the courthouse and would be home in 10 minutes. When Daddy arrived home, I was as far under my squeaky bed as you could get, and I was just crying my heart out. Daddy came in my room, knelt down, and looked under the bed. "Sweetheart," he said in his deep voice, "you need to come on out of there now. You don't want to be late for the pilgrimage, do you?" I sniffled and said, "No, Daddy, I'm so ugly." The next thing I knew, my daddy, who was still in his courthouse clothes, was on his back and sliding under the bed. He scooched right up next to me. I stopped sniffling. Daddy was under the bed with me, and already I felt safer. In his deep voice, he said, "Now, Kitty, you remember all the stories I've told you, all about my trips to Paris?" "Yes, sir," I replied. "Well, do you also remember how I told you the little girls in Paris had short, dark hair and were just beautiful?" "Yes, sir." "Well, sweetheart, I'm looking at you and your new haircut, and guess what I see?" "What do you see, Daddy?" "I see the most beautiful little Parisian girl of all, right here under this bed." I looked at him and silently thanked God for this wonderful daddy of mine. In seconds, I flew out from under that bed, and that night at the pilgrimage, the smile on my face told everyone in that auditorium that I truly felt like I was a little girl from Paris. Even to this day, when I'm feeling sad or down, I go back to that episode in my life, and I remember that incredible feeling, and everything suddenly becomes better.